I met this guy. The one who wrote this. He was a very good friend of my old man. This is the history of the Aquino family, all about them, including the machination of the Americans in the Philippines. You can have this if you want to copy it. Ganyan ako kung magbasa mas tinatad-tad ko yung ko eh.
May ganyan din ako, sir. It's a habit I picked up in UP Law. Leslie, I'll return to you now.
Sure. You just you copy it. You
Yes,
can
sir.
have it reprinted. In
Yes,
fact,
sir.
you do not violate any
No copyright violation.
no copyright.
Yes, sir. Wait, it's a signed copy.
That's very damaging. It disappeared. It was
Okay,
all, I think it was all
violation.
bought by Cory in order to preserve her image.
You can't even get that online.
It's not even on Amazon.
It's blocked.
That's why no copyright violation. Game.
Sir, can you tell us a little bit of, well, since you brought up the book, can you tell us a little bit of what is the whole Ninoy Aquino myth? Is it a myth or is it something that they propagated as a...
Because I was, did I tell you, you know what is going on now with President Duterte is similar to what went on with Marcos. During the time of Marcos, his nemesis was Aquino. Aquino was railing, pinning, bombarding Marcos every day, almost. And he made the mistake of including the wife, Imelda, and the mother of President Marcos, Doña Josefa. It's the same thing what this guy is doing now. Hitting the president, very disrespectful,
And the children.
rude, and including the family of the president. You're not supposed to do that. Tama yung posture ni Presidente. Na he cannot be investigated by the ombudsman. Yes. You are not supposed to investigate the president while he is president. Afterwards, yes. He is immune to any suit, to any criminal prosecution. You are undermining the country the moment you do that to your president. You destroy the trust and confidence of the people.
Yes.
To their elected ruler.
Yes. I'm going to quote you on that, sir.
Huh?
We're going to quote you on that because there's so much noise.
My God.
Yes.
These people have forgotten the fundamentals of our system of government.
Yeah.
These are fundamental things. That's why the president cannot be sued while he's president. You cannot even criminally charge him. And he can really, under our check and balance, he can create a commission to investigate anybody.
What are your thoughts, sir? Just sideline. What are your thoughts on the independence of the office of the ombudsman?
It is subject to our constitutional law.
Yes, sir, but the Constitution
It's a part
is
of
only...
the entire system. He cannot be an island unto himself, herself, and become an authority without any check. The one that checks him is the highest executive of the land, and that is the president, the repository of political power in the country.
There's a 2014 decision of the Supreme Court saying that the deputy ombudsman is subject only to the disciplinary measures of the ombudsman.
Mali din yung Supreme Court.
Yes, sir nga eh. Kasi binawi niya yung 2012 decision eh. In an earlier decision, the Supreme Court upheld that the deputy ombudsman and downwards are still subject to the disciplinary measures of the president. Concurrent with the
Kailan ba yung plan? Yung
2014, sir.
Binawi.
Binawi.
Reverse nila because they wanted to strengthen the ombudsman. How would they?
Yun na nga, sir. So they knew this was
Tama yung ginawa ni Presidente. Oh, I will not obey you.
Yes.
Oh,
Stand still.
my God. Why is he the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces? What is the Armed Forces ba? Or the police? These are the legitimate, lawful, coercive
Powers, yes. Forces.
instrument of the President, of the Chief Executive of the country to control the country in case of need, within the Constitution. Can the Ombudsman go against that? My God.
So what do you think is the strategy, sir, behind all this that's happening?
Huh?
From the opposition side, what are they trying to do?
Oh, they want to, very obvious.
Lenny.
They will always destabilize the administration. For what? For power. They have a president on the wing.
Yeah, si Lenny.
They can immobilize this president or eliminate him. They're in power again.
That's right.
See, yun eh. It's so tempting.
What are they protecting, sir, you think?
Huh?
What are they protecting?
They're not protecting anything. They want it. They want power.
Governance.
It's power.
What would if you were advising the president, sir, what would you have him do?
Huh?
If you were advising the president, what do you think he should do to address the
I
situation?
will not advise the president.
It just is it's rhetorical. It's speculative, sir.
I'm telling you, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yun yun.
The president of this country is more powerful than the president of the United States.
Why is that, sir?
Huh?
Why is that, sir?
Yes, he has more executive power. He controls the police. He controls the military. The U.S. controls only the military.
That's right.
For the
When we declared martial law in the country, we were not subjected to all these restrictions embedded in the 1987 Constitution. The governing doctrine at that time was Barcelona versus Baker, that the president has the absolute authority to declare martial law whenever, in his opinion, the safety of the country demands it. And no one, not even the Supreme Court, can question it. It's commander-in-chief power. Now, they wanted to emasculate the chief executive of the country in the 1987 Constitution to strengthen the enemies of the state. Yeah, that's effectively what it is. That's why they think that they can do anything now. These people who are challenging the authority of the government because they want to install a Marxist system in the country. But do you? Or do we want to be like North Korea? That's the only
Yeah.
prototype communist state now.
Discredited na eh.
What was the reason for martial law back in 1972, sir? What was
In
the
1972, we have only the Communist Party, criminality, and the MNLF, which started with the Mindanao Independence Movement in Mindanao, and it translated itself into the MNLF afterwards, who were actually trained by Malaysia,
Yes.
Nurmiswari.
Yes.
And at that point, the MILF now was a part of the MNLF. Hasim Salamat and the trio who controlled the group at that time were Nur Miswari, Hashim Salamat, and Dimas Pundato. We were able to co-opt Dimas Pundato. May iwan si Hashim Salamat. I was about to conclude an agreement with the Secretary of Foreign Affairs Ali Treki of Libya. After the Tripoli agreement was revised, because I objected to it, and President Marcos had to call a special meeting of the cabinet to discuss my objection. Anyway, we ended up going to Tripoli again with Mrs. Marcos and Carlos P. Romulo to renegotiate. And I was sent out by Gaddafi from Libya, told Mrs. Marcos, I don't like your Secretary of Defense to be in the discussion, because I told him to his face that if his attitude is, because he told me, we are in a state of war. And under a state of war, your constitution does not apply. And when he told me that, I said, Tito Mendoza was in front. By the way, when he said that, we were together. Because Tito supported me in my position. I was sent out. I brought Ramos, Ugbinar, and who were the other service commander at that time, out from Tripoli to Rome, because we were sent out. Early in the morning, we had to fly out.
It was in Libya. You were in Libya, sir?
Huh?
Where were you at the time? Where were the talks held at the time?
In Libya, here there was a negotiation in the convention center here. Erile Treki was here in the Philippines, and I was head of the delegation. He was head of the delegation, but Mrs. Marcos, sa atin lang ito, did not want me to succeed because akala niya I was interested to be the successor of Marcos. Mga political player.
And how are you with Mrs. Marcos now?
Okay. They thought I was ambitious and I wanted to be president. That was their greatest mistake. You know, if they did not do that, this country would be, probably would be different.
Sir,
Yeah.
was that junta connected with the Marcoses as well?
Huh?
That junta you mentioned earlier, was that there's operating
I do
set-
not know whether Mrs. Marcos knew about it. But the one who told me, but do not mention her name, is Edna Kamkam herself, who was the second wife of General Bell. And they did not know that Edna was very close to me because the brother of her mother, the mother is Catholico, and the other brother, Alfredo Catholico. Alfredo Catholico was the protege of my father. She sent him to school. He used to live with my father's house when he was a law student.
Sir, when you heard that information, sir, did you have it verified? Did you actually have somebody validate the information?
I have no doubt about the veracity of the story. And we knew already that based on our study of the preparation of General Ver and his group, we knew that something was afoot.
Sir, early in the Aquino administration, you already knew that. Early in the Aquino administration, you already knew that you weren't going to agree on a lot of things. What precipitated the drift away from Mrs. Aquino?
Because they were selling the assets of Marcos.
Yeah.
I thought they were different, but they started raping the country.
It's the same story. I talked to, well, this is off the record. I talked to Danny Lim about it also. And he said early on in the core years, they already knew But it was worse. It was
They were selling, they sold security bond.
yes.
Then, to the law, that was his brother-in-law, Lopa, what's his first name?
Rafael.
Jose ba? Jose Lopa?
No, sir.
Was,
Ricardo.
Ah.
Ricardo Lopa. Ricardo.
Ricardo Lopa.
ha? Ricardo ba yun? Si
Yeah,
Lopa?
The brother-in-law.
Yeah. The husband of the
Tessie.
oldest sister,
Yeah.
I think.
The Roppongi property.
Oo, in Japan.
The Roppongi property.
Huh?
The Roppongi property.
Pero attempt yun.
Yeah, I was subjected to ethics because of that.
Yeah, that's right.
I was all alone as an oppositionist in
Yes,
in the
I
24 member Senate.
Sir, who was pulling the strings during
Huh?
that time? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't Cory, or
Si
was it?
Piping.
15.
Piping. And the brother, the elder brother, sino pangalan nung married to Cacho? The eldest brother of Cory.
Not Jose. No, that's Pepin.
Older than Piping.
Peping's the
Antonio.
youngest.
No.
No.
I forgot his name.
Tahimik yun eh.
Which brings us to the question, sir.
Huh?
Which brings us to the question. Two Aquinos already in power during the last few
Too
decades,
lousy administration.
but they haven't really solved the murder of Ninoy Aquino during those two.
Ayun, that's another.
Yeah, why? How?
Sir,
What's
would you
your
know?
yes, sir? What happened there?
What
I do
happened
not
there?
want to discuss that. To me, that's weird. But mother and son did not do anything about it. In
Yun
fact,
na nga eh.
Hacienda Luisita and Central Azucarero de Tarlac, along with all other and some other haciendas, San Luis, Isabel, San Antonio, San Jose, in Isabel and San Jose in Negros Occidental, were owned by Tabacalera. We are the lawyers. During the presidency of Carlos P. Garcia, Ninoy Aquino was very close to Garcia. He was a special assistant to Garcia. Tabacalera sold Hacienda Luisita and Central Azucarero de Tarlac to Don Jose Juanco, the family of Cory. They needed $13 million to pay Tabacalera. At that time, we were under exchange control. Garcia, because of Ninoy, authorized $13 million from the very scarce dollar reserve from the central bank to be given to the Aquinos, to the Cojuancos, to buy Hacienda Luisita and Central Azucarera de Tarlac under the condition that the hacienda must be distributed to the farmers, to the tenants of Tabacalera within 5 years from the date of the agreement. Okay? They did not. The farmers went to court. They won in the court of first instance of Caloocan. The judge was Bernardo, he became a justice of the Supreme Court, Bernardo Pardo.
What year was this, sir?
Huh?
What year was this?
Before the Edsa Revolution, during the Marcos years.
Okay.
I forgot the year when this sale was before I joined the government of the Tabacalera. This was during the time of Garcia,
President Garcia.
Carlos P. Garcia. After the death of Pagsaysay, he was succeeded by Carlos Garcia. They never complied. When after the Edsa Revolution, that was another thing that I was angry about. Frank Chavez, the Solicitor General of Cory, withdrew the appeal of the Hacienda Luisita to the Court of Appeals And Cory issued an executive order because he had a decree-making power under his revolutionary constitution to effect land reform and authorize the issuance of shares of stock in lieu of land. And that's why they issued shares of stock in lieu of land in the case of Hacienda Luisita to comply with that condition of the sale of Hacienda Luisita and Central Azucarera de Tarlac to the Kuhuancos.
Decided.
Marami yan. Ako, Diyos ko. Yan ako levy.
Yeah.
If I did not protect that, ako lang nag-iisa dito. Siguro nawala lahat yan. Ngayon, yung 2.5 billion na naiwan doon sa Coco Levy na kinolekta namin nung nagkaroon ng coconut oil crisis sa Pilipinas. And we had to subsidize coconut-based commercial products. This is now worth 130 billion. And 75 billion of it was already realized into money through the sale of the shares of stock in San Miguel. But where is that money now? Where is it?
We were able to recover part of San Miguel, the 17% shares.
How much?
17% lang, sir.
Of the 70 million?
Of the San Miguel shares only, sir. I was with PCGG, that was my case. So,
They all became rich because of PCGG. For heaven's sake, including Philcomsat until now. Philcomsat is under sequestration.
yes, sir.
I was the one who created that with 55,000 pesos from NDC that I got to form Philcomsat. And the one that capitalized it was Nano Ilusorio.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's why Marcos, I became Niño Bonito of Marcos because of these things, you know. Which later on, the government sold for 145 million.
How depressing.
Ano pang gusto niyo malaman? Marami yan.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the other ones.
Wow.
Oh.
Ano na lang, sir? What do you feel are the highlights of the Marcos years? What for you were the highlights of the Marcos years?
I think when they declared martial law to save this country from the wave of communist revolution all over the world.
Sir, they said that you're the architect of martial law. What was your role in martial law?
After the election of 1969, there were massacres. I don't know whether you remember the Santa Lucia
Yes,
massacre,
I do.
no?
Yes, sir.
In Clark.
Clark.
Those were signs of the MLA in the country. After the election, President Marcos, that was Marcos. He was anticipating the problem to set into the Philippines because Nicaragua went down, China went down, Korea went down, and many other countries went down because of the communist revolutionary movement all over the world. This was during the time of the Soviet Union, not Russia, Soviet Union, and very strong. Marcos asked me after he won the election in 1969 to study his powers under the Commander-in-Chief provision. And I was Secretary of Justice at the time. I studied it along with two members of my staff in the Department of Justice, both magna cum laude from UP Law. Efren Plana and forgot the other one. Si, naging justice yun during the time of Cory. Si Minerva Gonzaga, si Mini. So I studied it. We prepared the compendium. Nobody knew about this. I got all the books from my law office, from our law office, brought it, old law books, American law books, put them in my house in Urdaneta, and at night I was studying it. Kaming tatlo, we prepared 1 volume of studies about the powers of the president under a martial law condition. I do not know where that volume is now. Then, after I presented the volume to President Marcos, he asked me to draft the implementing documents.
So you drafted 1081, sir?
I had no companion except one person. I asked President Marcos to assign his confidential secretary to work with me. I did not want to involve anybody, not even a friend or Minerva, in writing the documents. So I prepared 1081, the 7 general orders, and the 7 letters of instructions. I did not know that it will be 7. Huh? But when I started thinking about it and writing the documents, ganun ang lumabas.
Sir, about the...
Now, yung mga drafts ko, when they renovated my house here, I had it in a room. Nawala, pati yung typewriter na ginamit ko doon when I was typing it. I type it myself. In that, by the way, this is not known to anybody. I was appointed by President Marcos after I prepared all this document as his Deputy Commander-in-Chief. I was virtually the Vice President during the martial law years. Nobody knew about this. I returned the papers to him, Mr. President, after the election of 1971. When I lost, I returned my appointment to him because I did not want to have that appointment. But before my end of 1970, he appointed me already as Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. I was Secretary of Justice. No, I was already Secretary of Defense because I was transferred early in 1970 from the Department of Justice. I continued my studies and my work. At that point, wala na si Efren saka si Minerva.
Sir, ano yung kwento? What's the story about your ambush?
We were already under martial law. That was asked of me. How can I ambush myself then? Itong what happened was, there was an ambush. There's no question about it. Tirso Gador was in the car. I was the one, I transferred to another car because that used to be my
Practice.
modus operandi in those days because magulo na eh. And we were getting information that I was a target. So, when I passed the gate in the Wakwak, I was traveling for home. All of a sudden, a car was running beside me, made a rapid fire. Kamuntik na tinamaan si Juan eh. Kung nandun ako sa loob ng kotse, tinamaan ako eh. Oh.
But you were not in that car.
I was not in the car. Now later on, I found out who did it.
Is it?
Well, kung hindi nyo to.
Ano mo na?
Yun din. Yung mga naging junta, yun din. Ngayon, hindi ko alam na gamitin ng presidente yun. In his declaration. Tapos na. We were already operating. We were already, martial law was already in operation.
So this was after September 22,
No, no, no. It was on the. It was Friday, September 22.
When the ambush.
Yeah.
And then
I just finished my conference with the general staff. That is why
kaya,
when I was preparing for the EDSA revolution, I removed all the heads of my security and all the key people in the department because I knew that they were under the control of some people in the military, and I changed the whole thing. That is why they did not know what was going on.
Who was your,
Imagine we organized the ramp from beginning of 1983, 84, 85. They did not know that it existed. That's, even in the case of martial law, nobody knew about that we are going to declare martial law. That's how we controlled the projects.
who was your main adversary?
Huh?
Who was your main adversary, sir, from the other side, from the junta? Who was the?
The entire command.
Chief of Staff.
The entire command.
CS.
Even General Ramos, we did not, sa atin natin, we did not involve him. We were very careful because he was the cousin of the president.
The main reason, sir,
Huh?
the main thing that they always bring up about martial law are the atrocities committed by.
Just a minute, to complete this story about
Yeah.
by ambush. After the EDSA revolution, there was a writer, it's in that book probably, who came here and he wanted to interview me. I checked his background and I knew his link with the Communist International. Father Reuter pleaded with me to be interviewed by him. And that's why he wrote a book, Watching with the Dictator. And said that I admitted that my ambush was staged. I did say that the ambush was staged. But I did not stage it. But the implication of what he wrote is that I myself did it to use it to declare martial law, which was silly because martial law was already ongoing. The whole military was all over the place operating already when martial law was declared.
Bonner.
To be
Richard Bonner.
Richard Bonner.
huh?
Bonner.
Si Raymond.
Raymond Bonner.
Raymond pala.
Raymond Bonner.
Oh, correct. Kaibigan pala ni Father Reuter.
Bakit ko naman gagawin yun?
Ano yung question?
Yeah, going back, sir, because the main contention of the opposition, or even the people who were against martial law, are the atrocities done by the state actors, like the
What atrocities? Name me.
like the alleged.
No, but there's not even an allegation. They cannot. There were no atrocities. They fought us in combat. We have to kill them.
How about the tortures or the thing?
What torture? I know the people who were raped or si Ilaw. One of them was a woman named Ilaw, but I never heard about what's the name of this girl who became chairman of the Commission on Human Rights.
Eta Rosales.
Eta Rosales. I never heard that she existed during those years.
So how was it really,
Kung
sir?
isasama mo lahat yung mga jaywalker, yung mga curfew violators, sa abutin mo mahigit 100,000 ang naaresto. Pero ilan-ilan lang yun. Pati si Randall Etchanis with his wife, I fed him, I helped them, I gave them a room behind my office in the Camp Aguinaldo when he was arrested. Why should why should we be killing people? Sinabi ko nga kay, recently, si Luchi Cruz
Yes, sir.
asked me about disappearances, desaparecidos. I said, name me one. I'll name you one, I said. The son of Justice Hosea, Chief Justice Hosea. But we do not know him. At that time, they were killing each other. They were engaged in a purge. Even Danny Cordero, who was the grenade thrower in Plaza Miranda, was executed by them. Maraming pinatay sila season dyan sa mga kasama nila. They are buried in the some mountain jungles in the country.
How about the alleged abuses of the police, though, sir?
Huh?
How about
Police
the
and military.
Abuses? Well, at that time, we have no police. The police is local. The police was, the national police was the constabulary.
yes, the PC?
Oh. We control them. Tanungin niyo si Ping, pati si Ping, galit sa akin nung araw yan, pinahunting ko yan. Nagkamali lang sila yan. Yung si Tantiago yun, Tantiado ba yun na pinatapaan nila sa dalawang bangko and kung ano binuhusan yata ng tubig. Oh. Sila Rolly Abadilla, sabi ko, yung gagawin yan. Alam mo, nung nag-martial law kami, I personally conducted a seminar of all the young officers for 8 months. Oh. In order to indoctrinate them. For 2 years, walang problema yun. Later on na lang, nung ginawa nila yung DISA, doon nagkaroon kami ng problema. That was not under my control. National Intelligence and Security Authority.
The precursor of the
I opposed the organization of that group, but that was the Gestapo
General Burns.
that they organized. Inorganize ng mga nagpaplano ng junta.
So maybe, sir, that's the main period that they attribute martial law with. That's why they always bring that up.
Ha?
Because when, like you said, the NISA, ever since they formed that started all the problems,
Yeah.
right? And now,
That was under the control of the Chief of Staff, the Presidential Security Command.
so most of the things that they remember about martial law is attributed to that period. Because
Yung NISA ang talagang umabuso. Composite group yun.
Yes.
Wala.
Nobody knows.
Nakalimutan na ng mga tao
People
yun.
don't know that.
Lahat yan eh.
Because I remember even my relatives who are older than me, who lived through those years, they tell me during martial law years in Davao, it was very peaceful. But
You can open your house. Nobody will enter your house.
yes. And then I think problems arose when during the mid 80s or late 80s when
Yeah, late when they organized the NISA, I think, if I remember correctly, it started to get bad about 76. No. Bad guy na ako sa mata ng mga ibang tao. They started withdrawing powers from me. You know, I was the one actually running the country for almost 4 months. President Marcos did not want to come out. I was dealing with the bankers, I was dealing with the businessmen, I was dealing with everybody because I was his duly authorized representative. That was my designation.
When was this, sir?
During martial law,
early part of martial law, sir?
I decide who can travel, who can get out at night, who can...
So why was there a need for the president to be... The president at some point Marcos started issuing the arrest, search, and seizure orders. But it was presidential.
No. I was the one
Okay.
The only authorized issuer of in the beginning of arrest and warrant of
Search and
ASO,
seizure.
arrest,
ASO. Search and seizure.
search and seizure order.
Yes, sir. So you signed. But this was...
Ngayon, ang problema dyan, yung mga NISA, ang ginawa nila,
Meron din sila.
because natural, nationwide operation, I had to sign blank forms
okay.
for the designated targets. May mga naiwan na mga blank forms, sinerox copy nila yan, ginamit ng NISA yan.
Ang dami.
So did you ever have a confrontation? If not a confrontation, did you ever get to talk to former President Marcos before about that situation when there was trouble already brewing between you and the group?
I did.
What did he say about
But
that? Sir?
at that point, his mind was somewhat affected already. And said, I take your advice, but don't hurt my interest.